Hello, today we're going to be talking about the stages of clay. So when you're working with clay, there are a lot of things that you need to think about depending on what stage the clay is in. There are 4 stages of clay that we will be talking about pre-firing. So that's every stage you will probably see at some point with that one piece of clay that you have that you brought home. The other 2 stages of clay are after they have been fired. So the first 4 stages of clay are pre-firing, and they can all be recyclable and reusable. After it is fired in the kiln, then it can no longer be recycled and used. So the first stage of clay is called slip, S-L-I-P. Slip is watered down clay. You will be using the little plastic container that you are looking for around your house, and you'll be making your own slip by adding some water and a little bit of clay. So the slip should be runny, and we use slip while we are attaching 2 pieces of clay. So we use it like glue whenever you want to add a piece of clay to make it stick. I'll be showing you how to score in slip in another video, but for now you should just know that slip is used to attach it, so you'll use it to like glue. Anytime you are working with the clay and you get your little clay bits on your fingers, you will be putting that clay in a little container of water. This is going to make a little slip or slurry. One thing that you will need to know about clay is that as it dries, it shrinks. So it's really important to make sure that you score and slip 2 pieces together so that as the clay dries, that it doesn't shrink and separate, and instead it will shrink and grow, be melded together. So you will use your slip like glue. The second stage of clay is called plastic, similar to a plastic bag. So I have a usable, moldable piece of clay here. Plastic is the stage where you want to start making everything. So it's you can push into it and start shaping it. Every time you get it out of the clay bag, it should be in this stage. Often when we are recycling clay, you are using recycled clay. It sometimes loses its plasticity. So the plasticity is what makes it bendable and shapeable, and sometimes it will start cracking. So if your piece of clay starts getting a little dry or starts cracking a lot, you'll need to make it a little more plastic, and there will be another video that shows you how to add moisture to your clay to make it usable again. Plastic clay can be molded and shaped into whatever shape you desire. We'll be talking about clay thickness later on, so that when you start working with the clay, that you don't end up with something that is unfireable. You don't want anything to be too thick. The next stage is called leather hard. You don't want to leave your plastic clay out. As soon as air starts getting to it, it'll start to dry out. So if I am done working on this piece, I will want to wrap it up if I want to keep it moldable still. If I want it to start to dry out so I can do other things to it, then I will either lightly wrap it like this, or I can leave it out exposed. So I made these 2 pieces earlier today and left them completely out and open. There's still moisture inside of them, but they are not bendable anymore. So you have to start being careful once things start to dry to not break them. When things are here at the stage where it started to dry, it's called leather hard. When things are leather hard, they are stiff, but you can carve into them and create texture or add carvings and designs. So once you leave things out completely to dry, things become bone dry, or also called greenware. Greenware is something that is ready to be fired. Bone dry just means that it's been left out and there's no water left inside of it. So once you're completely done with the project, you will want to let it dry before it gets fired. To let it dry, you want it to dry slowly. So you want to cover the piece lightly with plastic, like this, so that it starts to dry slowly. As clay dries, it begins to shrink and when the clay shrinks, if it's drying too quickly, it will start to crack. Sometimes you'll get cracking, or if you don't score and slip your pieces very well, then sometimes those pieces start to separate. So as the clay shrinks and dries, the water is evaporating. When things are bone dry, all of the water has evaporated. You can see that it looks a little chalky, and it is ready to be put into the kiln and fired. It's also very, very fragile at this point in time. This is a little pinch pot that I made that I attached to little legs, and only one leg survived. So the legs broke off because this is a very, very fragile place. Once things go into the kiln, it is fired for the first time. It is called bisqueware. It turns out to be this salmony pink color, and it is ready to be glazed. This is a porous stage, so the glaze is going to absorb into the clay body. It's also still pretty fragile, but not as fragile as this. The last stage of clay is called glazeware. So this is your finished product, finished piece. It's after you apply glaze, and then we fire it a second time. This is fired at a higher temperature, so things will be changing colors a little bit. So it goes from being this chalky color once it's dry to this pink color, and then once it's fired at a much higher, hotter temperature, it turns into this tan color. This is a brown glaze, walnut brown, with white whiskers, but we have a variety of different colors of glaze. So one thing I wanted to show you was I made a template for this piece, and I used this to cut the clay pieces out. So if you could see how much this clay piece shrunk from the time that it was made until its final firing. So in total, it shrinks about 14%. Once you have your glaze and it's fired, it'll be a little shiny, sometimes it's matte, but it is waterproof and food safe, so you can eat and drink out of it, or if you wanted to put some flowers in here, it would be waterproof, so it would stay.